Hello and welcome to the Plant Paradigm Podcast, where we have inspiring conversations with individuals from all around the world and look for ways to create a clean, green, and sustainable future for us, the planet, and all beings. I'm your host, Tom Simak, a fellow plant eater who strives to optimize every living ecosystem, passionate about looking after this beautiful floating rock we call home and all the lovely creatures that dwell among it. Today's conversation will make you hungry because our guest is Mario Fabbri, the host of the cooking show Trying Vegan with Mario, where he invites world-renowned health food chefs to teach their best vegan recipes. Guests include Gianni Taylor, Dr. Joel Furhman, platinum record artist Krewella, and world-renowned vegan chef Gaz Oakley. Mario is also a board member for VegFest LA, and his meals and recipes have over 100,000 views on YouTube. It would be an absolute pleasure to rid the world from unnecessary animal exploitation. But that doesn't mean we can't have great food in the process. And that's a lot of what we'll be diving into in our chat. Being a chef, we'll tackle a whole host of food topics, including easy ways to make any food taste amazing, cooking for your health, kitchen hacks, and the future of food. Let's get into the episode and stay tuned to the end, where I'll get Mario to walk us through his favorite dish and how you can finish this episode and make yourself an amazing meal. Look, Mario, welcome to the podcast. I'm just going to kick off where we started back. Let's talk about dehydrating again. So you got this hobby during your COVID lockdown. What are you dehydrating?
Yes. So I'm in California right now. The State of the Union is we're coming kind of out of the lockdown of the pandemic. I've been working from home for the past 9 months to a year. It's been a crazy time. And I love to illustrate that in the podcast because these are going to be interesting to reflect on because
totally
things are more different than they've ever been. So coming into this pandemic, some things I'm thinking about are how can I boost my immune system? How can I keep myself busy and organized as so many other stabilities in my life are changing? So I got into this huge hobby of dehydrating different types of health foods, turning them into powders, turning them into little garnishes and getting super creative with it. So one thing that I love to do is make these super green powders. And I used to buy these super green powders from the store. It's just like dense packed nutrition. You throw it in a smoothie and it's kind of like your salad for the day. So you don't have to scarf down a full salad. It makes it so much easier to consume. So I was buying these green powders, super expensive. And I learned, just through process of trial and error and research and development, talking to experts and working with dehydrator companies, that I can make these super green powders pretty easily at home. And all you got to do is you take your favorite greens. Some of those popular ones are kale and spinach. You could throw in wheatgrass, dandelion greens. You could get into herbs and spices and basils and mints and all sorts of creative concoctions. But just start with the basics of kale, spinach, and a third green. Dehydrate them overnight for about 12 hours, 14 hours at 117 degrees Fahrenheit. I found that that's kind of like the key temperature. A lot of doctors that really study the cellular development of nutrition and enzymes inside of these super greens say that that's kind of the key temperature. So you're not killing too many enzymes and you're not killing too much nutrition. So 117 degrees Fahrenheit is the recommended temperature amongst a lot of doctors. I'm more of a chef, but I like to integrate the lessons I learned from those doctors. So I go with 117 degrees, let it go overnight. And when you wake up the next morning, it should be crispy and crinkly and just snap. And you'll know it's ready. And then you could throw that into a blender, or I have just like a spice grinder, or like you guys love coffee.
Yeah, coffee grinder.
A coffee grinder. So you probably know those. So you plop it in there, you blend it up, and then you're left with this beautiful green powder. And I have some right next to me because I've just been playing with this stuff all day. But this is what it looks like. And it just looks like a green powder. And what's great about it is when you dehydrate things, you're taking all the water out. And water is one of the components that makes up like the most of a food. Like when you watch these things dehydrate, they shrink to practically nothing. Like I've dehydrated a cucumber, I've dehydrated watermelon. You can put a full watermelon in a dehydrator and it's going to turn into like a thin sheet of paper.
Wow.
Because most of these things are water. So to eat a full salad, you're eating like a lot more than just the nutrition. So when you take the water out of it, you bring it down to a powder, you're condensing the volume. And basically like a couple tablespoons of this is like eating an entire salad. So it just makes it a lot easier for you to get your super greens. If you don't want to eat a kale salad a day, you could take this, put 1 to 2 tablespoons in your blender with your smoothie, with your berries, with your protein powders, whatever you got. I got my smoothie right here. And you blend that up, and it's a really convenient way for you to get your super greens. So that's one thing I started with. And then to kind of take it another direction, I'm getting super creative. And I know you said you got a dehydrator, so I'll give you a couple more ideas. And one thing I love to do is I love to dehydrate beets. So I love beets, and I've heard a lot of incredible things about how beets are incorporated into a lot of pre-workouts for exercise. So I'm like, oh, I see beet powder is in this C4 chemical-based pre-workout, but they're using a couple natural ingredients, and beets are one of the popular ones that's used in pre-workout. So I'm like, okay, let's make our own beet powder. So take beets, same concept as the super greens, throw them in your dehydrator. They take a little bit longer to dehydrate, maybe 14 to 20 hours. You got to kind of watch it. And you dehydrate your beets, you blend them up into a powder, and then you have beet powder. And it's very similar to what you're just buying from the store. And it's a lot of fun to do. It's a great hobby. And that's one of the things I've picked up. So we're figuring out, great ways and great hacks to stay healthy, even when times are tough.
I can't wait to try that. I love the power of beets, but I don't love the taste. And I'm really trying to love the taste of beetroot, but it's so tangy. I just can't get into it. How much, like when we're talking about this green powder or this, like how much are you using to get like your little container before, which was, I don't know, about 50 mil, 100 mil.
Yeah.
How much are you like using to get that much quantity of powder?
So this is like maybe a couple salads worth. So I picture like a big bowl of salad, lay that out on like 2 or 3 dehydrator sheets. So like a salad that you would eat, then you take that and you dehydrate it, and that's going to condense into like 2 to 3 big spoonfuls. I haven't done the exact measurements, and leaves are different sizes, but so this is like a couple salads worth. So I'd say one salad is 1 to 2 tablespoons, and throw that in your smoothie, and you're going to dilute the taste by throwing a couple good berries in there. So it makes it just quick and easy.
That's awesome. And I'm just thinking, what a fantastic solution to save big bucks, because I know these green powders are expensive, but also the plastic, like doing things from home is just the best thing. Like I think on like dehydrating things, making that powder is great. Next step is like, all right, cool. Hummus comes in all forms of plastic, but it's like the easiest thing to make at home. What other things do you make that you find are like really popular consumables that people would buy at the shops?
Well, I mean, you touched on one, which is hummus, and that's a really fun one because if you buy hard chickpeas, so most people they'll buy chickpeas like in the can and they're just kind of soaking in water. But if you actually take like a solid chickpea bean, it's like a rock. And if you soak it in water overnight, the juices from the chickpeas will come out, it'll soften, and you'll get that stuff called aquafaba. Have you heard of aquafaba? Yeah. Okay, yeah, that's like the chickpea juice. At first it's this weird thing, but now it is the chickpea juice. So you get that aquafaba by doing it on your own and by soaking them on your own. And then you have your aquafaba, you have your chickpeas, and then from there you take your chickpeas and turn it into hummus, and you just add, obviously you add your garlic, your lemon, your onion powder if you want to, your tahini. If you're doing olive oil, you add your olive oil. If you're not going olive oil, you add a little bit extra lemon in there, and maybe even some water or even some more of that aquafaba to get it to the right texture. But hummus obviously is a really simple and easy, good one. And yeah, man, that's kind of the ultimate question. I think one thing that you could also really get into is just meal prep. I don't know if this is something that necessarily answers the question, but I'd say quinoa is one of the things that I make the most out of anything. And quinoa here in California, most people's familiarity with quinoa is when you go to like the super organic, local, bougie, super expensive. Out here it's called Erewhon. I don't know if you've heard of Erewhon. Yeah. It has a reputation for itself, but you go there and you get this salad and it has a little bit of quinoa sprinkled on top. And then you see a couple things that have cool names and it's like $20. But quinoa is actually one of the most healthy things for you. And it's actually pretty affordable to make at home and make in meal prep. So that's one of those ones that it might show up on a menu at a fancy health restaurant, but it's something that you can easily make at home and that I would highly recommend like people getting into. And yeah, that's another good one.
Totally. And quinoa is like this beautiful concoction of food that actually takes so little water to grow. Like from my memory, I think it actually grows in the desert. So it's like the best climate healthy food as well, especially if you're substituting it or making it as a staple protein food for you or a carb food. So that's really awesome. And we jumped the gun a little bit because I got really excited about the topic. But to give people, I'll do a bit of intro so people know what your credentials are. But for those that haven't heard of you, to my understanding, you grew up, your family has a sausage factory, and now you have a vegan cooking show. How the hell did that happen?
It's a good question. And I did love Italian sausage. So it wasn't one of those cases where I resented my dad's sausage factory ever since a young age and I wanted to spite him as an adult. No, I was a huge fan of the Italian sausage business. And as a kid, I admired and looked up to my dad so much and still do to this day. You know, he's a hardworking businessman who had his own company around something that his family had created that he loved. And it was Fabbri sausage. And my grandpa had started it. My dad grew it into a very, very exciting business that one day I had anticipated taking over. And that was what I thought I was going to do for the longest time. And then as I became 17, 18, 19 years old, I started making my own food decisions, doing a little bit my own exploring, having my high school guidance counselor pick my brain and see what I'm actually passionate about. And I went to college and started to learn more and more about things and grew an incredible interest in just learning as much as I can. And right around that time, one of my best friends, he lost about 100 pounds by switching to a plant-based diet. So he was somebody who was a little bit overweight, and we went away to college. And 6 months later, I see this guy and like, he is like shredded. He's got like a beautiful girlfriend. His whole attitude is completely changed. He's bright with all of his friendships and relationships, most confident person I'd seen. And once I had witnessed that transformation, it made me just want to obsess about researching how he had changed the complete makeup of his life by switching to a nutrient-dense plant-based diet. So that just led me onto this journey where I started reading books and I started asking questions. And I read this book called Eat to Live by Dr. Joel Furhman. And in Eat to Live, he really illustrates how you could reverse heart disease by switching to a plant-based diet. And once I'd heard that, it was another light bulb. It was like, my friend just lost 100 pounds. This guy's reversing heart disease. Like, what more can I learn about how food affects our body? So I became obsessed. I kept reading books. And right around that time, I actually was getting into cooking show production, and I was learning how to use cameras, and I was building a name for myself as a producer in the industry. But deep down, I was learning about plant-based food and having this new passion. So right around that time, I was working for a big client who wanted to promote all these new best ways to cook steak. Meanwhile, I was learning about healthy plant-based food. So I just kind of took a leap of faith, and I came up with this concept for a show called Trying Vegan with Mario, where I was going to reach out to these doctors who wrote the books that were inspiring me. And at first it was just like kind of like a crazy idea, like, let's see if this actually works. And I create a list of like, who are the top 100 people I would want to learn from, right? All the people that inspired me, all the books that I was reading, the documentaries. And I created this list and I reached out to everybody. And eventually a couple people surprisingly got back to me. They're like, yeah, we would love Dr. Furhman, the guy who wrote Eat to Live. He was one of the first people on my cooking show. He's like, yeah, I would love to teach you how to saute vegetables without using oil and talk to you guys about the benefits of removing fatty oils from your diet. So some people just blessed me, and they were willing to really help out and lend a hand. And I had a couple of amazing guests on my cooking show early on. And I think that those relationships and that passion and that interesting story of going from the standard American diet related to a lot of people. And then I was able to find some sponsorships and get it picked up for television in New York City. And a couple seasons later, here we are today. And I'm working on a new season of my show and just integrating as much of the things I've learned into my lifestyle and trying to become a chef so I could teach other people. So yeah, it's been an incredible journey, but here we are.
That's awesome. I love the transformation. And out of curiosity, you're like a lot of vegans, or I know you took a while making your show. I know you talk about how you were just a little bit more plant-centric every time you had a guest on, every time you learned new things. Yep. And we all tackle different things and family members scolding us for our dietary choices. But I'd imagine, like, how did your dad go with what you're doing now?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I remember like the first time I had heard about healthy food, I was living in Colorado at the time. which is known for being like a hippie liberal state. So I fully embodied the hippie lifestyle at the time. And I remember coming home for like Christmas for the first time since I had like gotten into plant-based food. And I was like trying to reverse all of my grandma's like famous family recipes. Like my dad's making a pineapple upside down cake. I'm like, take out the butter and use olive oil, which like doesn't make any sense flavor wise. Like you're not gonna use olive oil in this pineapple upside down cake. But there I was trying to like reverse the entire family recipe. And he didn't take to that too great. But he realized that I was just a little bit excited and he gave me my space to explore these things. And a couple of years later, like we've built a really good relationship around it. Like I've definitely toned it back. I realized like I'm not going to turn my dad into a vegan like overnight. I'm not going to try and push my changes on other people who aren't necessarily asking or looking for them. So after enough time had passed, we kind of bonded over it, and he saw my growth, and all of a sudden, actually, this was one of the interesting kind of like relationship building moments. Was he has an Italian sausage factory, and all of a sudden, all these plant-based meats are becoming one of the most popular hot foods in the country. I don't know if that happened where you live, but totally. We have a lot of fast food in the United States. And for the first time ever last year, we're seeing commercial advertisements for the Impossible Burger. And we're seeing people trying to ditch beef and on television on these mass commercials, whereas before it was like such a niche kind of like weird thing. So that all happened at the same time. And my dad saw these commercials. He's like, he's asking me for vegan sausage recipes. So now finally I had his interest. So now I'm like bringing home vegan sausage for him to test out. He's telling me they're crap, but then he'll admit when one of them actually has a good flavor profile. So now he's actually taken an interest. He's adapted. He's trying more things. He still does the sausage factory thing, but we get along pretty well. And I realize you can't change people who don't want to change. And you also can find interesting ways to get along with anyone if you're trying to eat vegan at the same time.
That's awesome. I'm so glad that turned around for you. Look, given that you spend so much time around food, I was wondering if you have this, I guess, sort of connection with it. A lot of people, like you hear about, don't be on your phone while you eat so you can actually take in like the taste, the textures, the flavors, all of that. Do you feel that kind of way, whether you're purchasing organic or local produce? Like, what does your connection with food actually look or feel like?
Yeah, that's a great question. And something you mentioned earlier kind of hints at it is you mentioned how quinoa is like grown in the desert and is one of the most resourceful foods to grow, right? So that's one of the things I started to learn about more is like, how is food actually grown? Like, where is this food actually coming from? And I'll drive through Nebraska and I'll see these massive cornfields and massive soy fields. And I started like asking questions about how that stuff works. And then I'm learning that a lot of it is so first of all, a lot of the plant-based food, a lot of the soy and corn grown in the United States is actually grown for cattle, which is an interesting thing. And it takes up so much land and so many resources, and they just pummel it with these pesticides that we don't really know the true result of what could happen if we're spraying so many pesticides on this incredible soil that has so much micronutrients, but now we're destroying and killing it. And we're learning that we can't repurpose the soil after we destroy it. So you start to learn these things, and it starts to trigger a lot of emotions around food because this is also what everybody is eating. So that was like a huge trigger for me. So it sent me again on one of these like explorative journeys. And I started to learn about local, and I started to learn about local produce, and I started to learn about like food forests where you could actually grow these micro communities of foods that actually complement each other and are good for the soil, and it's completely organic, and the pests kind of take care of themselves because it's like this natural life cycle that would occur if humans weren't on their own, but it's so fruitful if we don't put as much control into it. So I started learning about these things, and I visited this company in Arizona that was actually working with a bean called the tepary bean that grows in the desert with practically no water, similar to, I got to look more into quinoa and how quinoa's gone. That's super interesting to me. This bean, again, grows in the desert. It is so resilient, and there's a lot of good reasons for that because water is one of the most used up resources by farmers. So if we could use less water, we can grow more crops more efficiently. That's a huge plus. And also as temperatures rise and these summers are getting more brutal, like I live in California, I've been here for a couple of years. Like we could feel it's getting warmer. People could debate the cause, but we can't debate the fact that it's actually happening. So we need things that could be resilient. We need the tepary bean that could actually grow in a desert. So if temperatures rise, we can grow it in more places, and we're actually prepared for those moments. So that's something that I learned, and that's something that I care so much about. So now when I buy food, I'm like thinking, like, what is the life cycle of this food? Like, where did this actually come from? And you learn so much by being curious and asking questions. And you learn so much about like really thinking about your food. But also the United States does such a good job of covering up. So it's unfortunate that you kind of got to do a lot of your own research. Like, it's hard if you go to a grocery store to know like what was grown by somebody who has your right health in mind versus somebody who is willing to use experimental chemicals in a situation where they might make a profit for a long-term benefit because they have to meet evaluation for their board of investors because they have a quarterly review coming up, and it snowballs into this lobby where food is controlled by people with money. It's hard to find out who the right and authentic people are to purchase from, but it's definitely something I think is super important.
Yeah, I was always thinking about this sort of way to know where our food is actually sourced from. It's like thinking about some sort of regulatory government or organization that goes through this. Because I know in Australia it's monitored, but in the US I don't think it is from my research. So you could, like, I know in the US when I was talking to my friends that live there, you can go see sold on the shelves like gluten-free water and stuff like that, just random crap. So I think it comes down to regulation, but it also comes down to education, because there's never going to be a perfect system. Let's be honest. So, you know, we eat like an average person, eats 3 meals a day. I think it's kind of a good move to do some sort of research into what you're eating. It's just like sleeping. You don't want to get a crappy mattress when you spend a third of your life on there. It's like, get a good toilet, get a good mattress. Like, where you're spending most of your time is where you invest. And food is definitely one of them. So organic and local produce is the king. And on the topic of food, look, you spend so much time around it. In the past year or two, especially during lockdown, I know you've been doing a lot of experimenting. Dehydration aside, what are some of the best kitchen or food hacks that you've come across?
Yes. Good question. This one is my favorite because A, it's perfect for kids. Like, this is a food hack for kids. And B, because it's also a food hack for adults. It's kid food, adult food. It is a hack for making a delicious mac and cheese recipe, vegan mac and cheese. So this is one of my favorite recipes of all time. And it's one that I'll make for parties a lot. Like, I used to cater these events like in Hollywood where it'd be like a lot of drinking and partying, and I'd kind of be like the chic vegan chef in the back chefing things up. And a lot of people there wouldn't know that I was making vegan food, but the organizers of the events were vegan. So they wanted to be that case. So I'd have this really interesting opportunity where I'd be making these vegan cheese recipes, and I'd be serving them to people who are like drunk, having fun at a party, and they try this vegan cheese sauce for the first time. And then I'd tell them like it's vegan, and their mind would just be absolutely blown. And they'd bring all their friends over. Then there'd be like a party around the vegan cheese sauce. I literally have guys like playing a game with their friends, like, yo, guess what this is made of? So this recipe's gotten a lot of good testimonials. But this vegan cheese sauce recipe is, I'll walk you through the recipe. So the first thing you need to do is take a carrot and a white potato, and you blend. First, you peel the potato, and then you boil the carrot and potato together. You chop them up, you boil the carrot and potato for like 7 minutes until they get a little bit soft. And then you take that carrot and potato and you throw that in your blender. And then we're going to add a bunch of things to the blender. You add like maybe a cup of coconut milk. If you're doing olive oil, you add a little bit of olive oil. You add like 3 tablespoons of nutritional yeast, a teaspoon of garlic powder. If you have flour on hand, or especially arrowroot flour, that's something I add in there to thicken it up, but it's not necessary. And then the key to getting this cheesy flavor is pickled jalapenos. So you add pickled jalapenos to this recipe, like 6 pickled jalapenos. They're the jalapenos that come in a jar. They're already sliced out, normally in a glass jar. You add like 6 in there, maybe 9 if you're feeling like extra spicy. I don't know what your level is. If you want to burn the back of your throat, that's not me, so I stick to 6. But some people are putting 12 in there. And then also after that, you add in some of the pickled jalapeno brine. So that's the liquid that actually comes with the pickled jalapenos. So that brine is just packing with flavor. And then after that, I think the only ingredient I'm missing is tomato paste. You blend that together and you have like the most delicious, like take it to a baseball game, like you're at a circus, you're at an event, like, you know, those nacho cheese sauces that's got a nice kick to it. So it makes that delicious cheese. It's also great as a mac and cheese. It's great with chips. But that is a recipe that kids love, adults love. It can be made into a high class fancy dinner. You could bring it at a party with your drunk friends, and it's passed all the tests. It's
I can't
definitely
believe
one of the
that.
best.
That's like you've listed a bunch of whole foods, and you've made this culmination of a cheese. And when you look at like vegan cheese in particular, like dairy, of course, is full of other things, but vegan cheeses usually has like soy protein isolate and usually has some sort of fat content, and it's usually made from different, and obviously to store it in stores, you've got like different preservatives and things like that. So it's insane that you've created. I'm going to try that. All right.
Yeah,
I'm going to have to flick you a message like tomorrow or the day after and just let you know how I went with this cheese. Cause we're a nacho family and we love that stuff. And I usually just have it with guac. Like guac's so easy and stuff, but this nacho cheese, I'm going to have to message you, and I'll post it on Instagram as well, just so people listening to the episode can go and have a look as to how that actually turned out. I'm going to keep myself accountable now.
Yeah, please. I love it. It's fire. And you just mentioned guac. I just want to say guac is another hack. I had a friend who was like visiting from out of town. He's like, I'm trying to eat vegan. I don't know what to eat. Like, what should I do? I'm like, when I don't know what to do, I'll just like put guac on everything. It's like you're getting avocados, you're getting tomatoes, you're getting like jalapenos, you're getting cilantro, you're getting a lot of healthy food. It's already blended up to be delicious. It goes great on everything. Like I'm putting guac on my quinoa, I'll put my guac on noodles, I'll put my guac with chips. Like if I'm in a hurry, guac everything. Just guac it.
That's it. And then the best thing about guac that I've learned is the tomato and the avocado together. I forgot what it actually was, but it actually increases the absorption of the vitamins.
Interesting.
I forgot which. Maybe if I find out, I'll put it in the show notes. But
it
is like the best combo.
Nice.
Is there like a particular spice or something that you put onto every dish that you think makes it taste amazing?
That's a good question. I mean, I'm Italian, so I love rosemary. I love thyme. I love basil. I love my dehydrator. So I got into dehydrating my own herbs and making my own spices and seasonings. So I'm a little bit like fancy when it comes to those types of things, but a spice that you could put on everything besides nutrition. You obviously know about nutritional yeast, right?
Of course.
It's not like
I'm a human.
That's just like, human. You'd be surprised how many non-humans live in New York City drinking coffee with their heads down.
Yeah.
They need nutritional yeast. So nutritional yeast is something that I could sprinkle on everything. And a new spice that I just discovered that could be a good one to add to people's minds is a spice called za'atar. It has like sesame in it. And man, I don't know what else
Egyptian.
is in it. I don't know what else is in it, but somebody just blew my mind with it. I had a guest on my cooking show just the other day, and he was teaching me a recipe for Greek food. And he was sprinkling za'atar on everything, and it was incredible. So
do you have to pronounce it like that as well? Za'atar. Like you have to pronounce it like
yeah, it's kind of, it could be like an evil prince, like za'atar.
The guy from Aladdin. Where do you reckon the future of food is going? Like obviously at the beginning you mentioned these Beyond Meats, Impossible Burgers. Like how do you see the integration of all that coming into fruition within like consumers' minds and supermarket shelves? How do you reckon that's going to go down?
I think there has to be incredible innovation and incredible new science that is currently being figured out. But what we're doing right now is not sustainable. In the United States, we cannot sustain the amount of factory farms that we're going to need to feed people as the population grows at this same current rate, and at the rate that we are destroying the soil with all of the corn and all the soy, and how we're monocropping and using so many pesticides, and we're just disintegrating all of it. We're just like destroying the value right now. So I'm really hopeful that some of these plant-based meat companies will figure out a way to produce food more efficiently. I don't know if that is like cellular meats. I don't know how I feel about that, but I feel like we are getting into a place where we kind of need a new solution and a new way of doing things in the future that could eliminate factory farms. And I think that would be an improvement upon that. But I think that that's a huge direction we have to go. And vegan in general is massively increasing in the United States as well. So as people eat more plants, it is more efficient for the environment. So hopefully we'll get to that place. But I'm actually curious and excited for some new innovations and for some new inventions that could come from, scientists partnering with nutritionists. I obviously have a fear of those turning into a horrible thing, but I'm also optimistic about the future of technology.
Bro, let me blow your mind. I was talking to someone the other day that works in the cellular agriculture industry, and they said they're figuring out how to 3D print a chicken wing from stem cells.
Wow. See,
with the bone.
So how do you feel about that? I don't know what to say or think about that, because I think that is so cool and so exciting and interesting. It could be a solution to so many things, but I also think that's so effed up in so many weird ways too. Like
we're trying to hold on and cling on to this.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. I think, and I wanted to touch on this. It's like, I have the philosophy that I eat for my health. Like sometimes I will eat stuff that I think doesn't taste good if I think it's got a nutrient profile that I need. For example, beetroot. If I've got a 23K run on the weekend, I know that just before that run, I'm going to have a beetroot shake. I'm not going to enjoy it, but I know it's going to help me. Now, this cellular agriculture meats, I don't think I will eat that. But I'm really excited for the fact that other people can, and it's the lesser of two evils. Do I think it's healthy? Probably not. It's probably not going to be, and healthy compared to what? Are you comparing it to a lentil burger? A lentil burger is going to win every time. So it's what are you comparing it to? But also, if that stops, this animal agriculture, this unsustainable industry, because they can get this one feather from a chicken and they can create tons of kilos in a beer brewery-like factory that doesn't need you don't need to feed this animal. You don't need to care for it. You got all these solutions. So while it's not for me, good for everyone else. But do you go through the philosophy that you eat for your health? What's your take on all that?
I think you kind of nailed it on the head. I eat for my health, but I recognize that not everybody else is that way. And I try and figure out ways to find solutions that could appeal to more people, that could solve these bigger problems. Exactly what you're saying is the reason why I am all for this cellular meat. Because people are going to eat fast food, but they're better off eating that fast food than the other fast food. And then I'm over here destroy the fast food companies. But also at the same time, if I'm just talking to my friends, that's a positive benefit, So I would say I personally eat for health. I like having my green powders. I like getting experimental. I like talking to doctors. Every time I hear a new nerdy statistic about some superfood, I want to test it out and find out more. But I'm all for the future of food just being more accessible to people in their own way as they slowly make positive transitions.
Oh, totally. I think it's going to be, the future is really exciting because I get down on the fact that all these animals are dying at the moment and climate change is happening. But with that aside, I get really excited about the fact that in 5 or 10 or 10 years ago, the first Impossible Burger or Cell Ag Burger wasn't even invented. And now it's been commercialized, right? So it's got this whole huge change that in 15 years, there's going to be a whole other world. They've got everything now. They've got cellular agriculture dairy milk. What the hell is that? Soy milk is fine. It tastes good.
That's where I draw the line.
But also, it will probably take less energy to design this cellular dairy milk than it would be to change some people's minds.
Yeah. The energy efficiency of changing people's minds is a factor that people often forget. That's a good one.
Yeah. And then in terms of price point, I was going to say a lot of times you hear the saying that eating healthy or eating organic or eating vegan or insert the reason is expensive. What's your take on something like that?
I'll say that sometimes it is expensive. And I think that's so important as we increase the demand that prices are going to shrink. Like I mentioned, the company that makes the vegan burgers out of the tepary bean that grows in the deserts of Arizona in order for that company, like their burgers are expensive. I'm willing to pay for it because I trust the process, but their burgers are too expensive. And as we order more of these burgers, he'll be able to farm more efficiently and improve his distribution and get his prices down. So I think that a lot of health foods are more expensive because they're just because of supply and demand. You know, as demand increases, our manufacturing costs go down and we can do a better job of supplying healthy food for a better price. But right now, to be blunt and honest, like there are a lot of places where I will go and I'll be shocked that like a 300 calorie salad is like $12. Like that's ridiculous. Like I need to fill myself up. So maybe I'll end up getting like a side of potatoes or something like that are fried. And it's like, okay, you know, and I don't want to do that. So I think that healthy food is more expensive, but at the same time, if you buy from the grocery store and if you have an open mind to eating all sorts of creative foods and you just shop whatever is on sale, like if you see that zebra striped squash over there is on sale and it's a good price and you're trying to save money, healthy, and you pick that one out, you can eat pretty affordably. Like I was 5 years ago, I was trying to eat this healthy and I was trying to spend like $6 a day, I remember, on food. I was only buying the things that were on sale and I was buying mostly organic and I was able to survive and get by and with not a lot of money. So I think with creativity, it can be cheap, but man, we need to demand more healthy food so the prices go down. That's an important part of this whole operation.
Totally. Voting for your dollar is like one of the biggest powers us as consumers do have. I was wondering, like, I don't know what this zebra squash is that you mentioned, but have you tried durian?
No.
Okay. I was kind of hoping you had because I've heard it tastes really good, but it smells like ass. So I wasn't sure, like I see it at the shop and I'm like, I want to pick it up, but I'm really scared.
Dude, I thought you were going to have a durian story for me. I hear the same thing. I've never played with it, but I've heard that there are actually cities where it is illegal to have durian in your restaurant because it smells up the entire block.
You can't have it at airports or anything. So they'll take it. Yeah. Oh my gosh.
It's crazy.
That's so funny. Damn. I was hoping you would. But look, on your show, so I heard, and I think I read this on your website, that a lot of your audience is actually non-vegan. Mm-hmm. Why do you think that is?
Well, it's hard to find vegans out here, man. There's not a lot of us.
Come on, there's a fair bit. Like, surely, like you're in California. Like, come on.
Yeah. You're right. But if you think about the grand scheme of things, like, it's a small percentage. So to get to the point where it would be interesting. I don't know how it would get there, but I think part of it is because when I started the show, I wasn't vegan. I think a lot of people related that. Like when I actually started my cooking show, I was not vegan at all. I was like, hey, I'm just this curious guy who has a lot of questions. How can I learn? Let me ask these doctors who wrote these books questions because some of this stuff I'm not buying it and I need to hear it for myself. And some of it I just want to have the opportunity to expand on in person. So I wasn't vegan at all. And I think a lot of people were able to relate to that. And people actually would make the change with me. Like I would have people actively watching my show and being like, hey, like, I'm eating 5% more vegan. How are you doing? And we're like checking up on each other and we're kind of building this transition together. And I hope a lot of people who watched from the beginning have made that journey with me. And I've stayed in close touch with some of those people. But I think that providing that unique perspective was definitely important. And it was important for me too, because it was just coming from a place of, authenticity and a real experience. Like I would try vegan cheeses on my show and be like, this tastes like crap, like I got rid of a couple sponsors because their products were shitty and I had to talk about it. I couldn't lie about it. And I think that is an important thing that we do. And just even thinking in general, if I were to give some encouragement amongst the vegan community, I think sometimes maybe it's just the people who speak the loudest, but sometimes we have a tendency to like make this seem like this is the solution and the only solution to everything. And I definitely think that we shouldn't be killing animals, and to look at it from the perspective where that's a form of murder would mean that, everybody who isn't vegan is coming from a bad place. But you can't look at it like that because that's not how our cultural civilization and our norms have been created. So we are the odd ones out. So I think that we need to be like really, really honest about our opinions of certain things and not just say because it's vegan, it's good. Like Like I see people promoting a lot of vegan burgers that really suck. Like there's a lot of stuff out there that just because it's vegan doesn't mean it's good. And we need to be careful of the message that we're saying and just be as authentic as possible. And it takes deep conversations like we're having right now. Like it's not just an Instagram caption or a post that represents an entire message. It's a deeper, longer form conversation that people appreciate and they can relate to. And this is horrendous. So I just started TikTok.
I was just about to ask you in my mind. I was like, "Are you on TikTok? Are you following that vegan teacher? Like, what? Like, where?" I think we had like that Zoom connection where I thought of it and then you said it. Yeah,
dude. I mean, TikTok is the place where people don't give a shit. They're out there on there, and I won't dive too deep into that vegan teacher because I'm sure she's a great person, but she turns a lot of people off, and she introduces the message to a lot of people as well. So I don't know her direct impact, but I will speak to my experiences on TikTok. So I have a page called Vegan Recipes. I just thought it was a smart way to get my vegan recipes out there. So a while I got the tag Vegan Recipes, and now that's where I post a lot of my TikToks on there. I get more creative and witty and and all that stuff. Yo, seriously, check out the page. It's good shit. But I need your help because I have never been trolled so much as I am on TikTok. Yeah. I think it's because my name is Vegan Recipes that it's like an easy target, but I get tagged in animal slaughter videos like every single minute, constantly. And I've found a really, really good way of diluting the conversations and like changing people's minds, but it takes too much time and energy. I couldn't get to all these people, but something I say, a lot of people tag me. I'll say, hey man, can you please stop tagging me in these posts to taunt me? I believe that we could have different opinions on food and still get along online. And a lot of people get back to me like, bro, I'm sorry. Like, you're cool. It's chill. Like, because they'll go to my page, they'll see I'm a real human being. And then they'll be like, oh yeah, I don't need to start a fight with this person because he has a different opinion than me. And I've never even talked to him about it. So people get in a lot of arguments based on headlines and captions and they bite at things. But if you can have longer conversations, I think we're all way more similar than we are different. Even a vegan to a hunter, I think we're all way more similar than different, so that's an important thing. But yeah, TikTok's a gauntlet. It's weird.
Yeah, I think what you're doing is right. But I think also what you're probably doing is talking to 13-year-olds. So it's we know what it's like to be 13. Like you do silly things. You don't think about it. You haven't developed a personality. You're still trying to chase clout and chase acceptance from your parents and your peers, and you're trying to find that. So it's really easy to make that tag. Like just yesterday, I was walking past a school to get groceries. My top said, eat fruit, not friends. That was my top. And I walk past these guys. I see like 5 lads. Like obviously, you know what they're thinking. They're all just looking at my top. Like, come on, say something. Come on, I'm waiting for it. And I walk past. They all kind of like just look down and at my top. And then all I hear is like, bro, did you see that guy's top? And then it's like, what can you can't say anything. It's like, you don't know their opinion that they've formed. And at the same time, you're planting a seed. Even if here's my perspective. You've planted this seed of this person tagging you in slaughter footage. So if you get upset and message back, be like, you're a twat or whatever you say, it's like, yeah, you've instigated this troll, but at the same time, why does he think I'm a twat? Why is this a bad thing that I've done? And that could plant a seed that you'll never see come into fruition. But in 5 years' time, oh, I just saw this again. Like, this actually alarmed me. Now I see what this vegan recipe page did 5 years ago and why it was upsetting. So even though they're tagging you, I would say that's still a form of activism that you're doing indirectly. That's my perspective.
I hope, man. you got to coach me through more of this, dude. Sometimes I got to stay away from the conversation. That's why you're right. They're all like high schoolers who are doing this for fun and attention and have more time on their hands. And I'm like over here, like, how do I formulate a plan to change this person's mind in a positive way that isn't too passive aggressive, but gets my point across? And like, I'm also on TikTok. So like, I'm in the world of the trolls. I'm like,
dude, I totally feel it. You feel like you see the comment and you got to make like this NCIS crazy mind map to track this like murder. You've got like the pins and the red circles and the maps. And you're like, you think about it too much, but at the other end, it's just like a kid who doesn't really know what they're saying. Yeah. Like I used to do that. I used to be tagged in stuff by my vegan friends pre-vegan, and I used to just snork it off and be a little bit of a troll. Like, nah, eggs are good. Like I used to be that person. Anyone can change. And I don't know. It's like the same thing that like Gary. Everyone knows Gary V. He says the same thing. Stop caring. You're going to get hate. If you get hate, it's a good thing. Any publicity is good publicity.
Mm-hmm.
So at the same time, other vegans are probably getting tagged in on that same post of a slaughterhouse. And then they see, oh, this vegan recipe page got tagged in. I'm going to check out his stuff and see what he does. Oh, I got so much hate. I was really thinking about conforming and again, consuming animals, but I can see other people are also getting this hate and this Mario kid is staying strong. Like he's still posting and you could be someone else's inspiration. Like you never know. Stories can get so convoluted. Like like the biggest impacts people had on my life, I don't think they knew it. They probably haven't even met me. So it's like, it's That's such powerful. It is. And I think as vegans, it's like this big battle we struggle. And let me take that back. Not as humans, it's this big battle we struggle because it's not just vegan. Like we all have differing opinions. There's political opinions, dietary, there's who's Xbox, PS4, like, or whatever it is. It's like, there's so many different facets of different opinions. You can't get upset at all because again, your impact is something that you can never truly track. Like even with this podcast, I can track, this is the listens, but I don't know. Someone who listened to this could have a conversation with someone who had a conversation with someone who was on their fence. Like you just never know. So I think, man, you're doing the right thing with this TikTok page. It's just resilience, bro. And I didn't know you were on TikTok, so I'm going to hit you up a follow, and then we can all follow vegan recipes so we can learn about some good stuff. Is it just vegan recipes or is it vegan.recipes?
Vegan recipes.
Dude, you scored with that.
I know. That's what I'm saying. I got it before TikTok was like even happening. And I was like, this might, like, I was just in that mindset. And I was like, this might be a smart asset to acquire right now if TikTok blows up. So I got it like 3 years ago. I never used it. I actually forgot the password. But then when this quarantine started, I was like, I need a hobby. As many people, I turned to TikTok and I looked at the page and I had like grown a following from posting nothing just by having the name. And I was like, all right, let's kick this into gear. So
whoa, you got 73,500 followers. You are famous, bro.
Yeah.
You're like, you got TikTok drip. Is that what the young people say?
Dude, I'm gonna find out, man.
That's so funny.
I got TikTok drip. No cap. That's a new word, cap.
Yeah,
cap or no cap.
Yeah, I don't know what that is. Isn't
another thing, just because we're talking about TikTok, I'm not going to indulge too much more, but one last thing that I say that I think is pretty intelligent. So a lot of people will like try and harass you and post meat on my pages. And the thing I'll say is I'll be like, by commenting on this vegan recipe page, I know you don't want to see more vegan recipes, but the algorithm is going to start showing you more vegan recipes. So if you don't want to see this type of content, you're better off not commenting on it. And a lot of people actually take that pretty well. But that's the last thing I'll say about my conversations with
I love that.
TikTok trolls.
Troll the trolls, man. Troll the trolls.
No, it's toxic.
So you've got 2 seasons to change the topic. You've got 2 seasons of trying vegan with Mario. You said you had a third coming up.
Yes.
Can you have you signed like a non-disclosure? Like, can you dilute what guests we've got coming up, or what's the go?
No, I'm so excited to dive into this. So seasons 1 and 2 of my show, Trying Vegan with Mario, were about me as a non-vegan learning about the benefits of plant-based food and finding the best delicious recipes so I could satisfy my urge to eat tasty food and get off the standard American diet. So then since I finished those 2 seasons, I've learned so much, and I've become a master at this in the process of learning from other people. And for the past maybe year and a half, I haven't been making as many shows as I have been working on recipes, writing recipes, doing chef courses online, catering events, and becoming a plant-based chef in my own right, because now I know that this is the obvious thing that I should learn how to do. So for the past year and a half, I've kind of like turned the tables. And on season 3, it's less of me learning from vegans and more of me being a vegan expert, teaching non-vegans recipes and getting their take on it so that other people could learn from me. So that's what I'm working towards. And season 3, we're working on episodes right now. It's going to take a lot longer to produce because I have a big grandiose vision for it. But I'll say the first person that I just worked with, which was so exciting for me, is this guy, Kevin O'Leary, who is Mr.
Shark
Wonderful
Tank?
on Shark Tank. Yeah, Shark Tank. Yeah. So I've been a huge fan of Shark Tank ever since it started. If you don't know Shark Tank, it's where young investors that have a dream enter into a boardroom of investors and they make their pitch and they could get a deal or not get a deal. And the people who run the show are some of the most incredible, like A-list investors, celebrities, personalities, people who make dreams come true in the United States and all throughout the world. So that's the lowdown. Check out Shark Tank. But this guy, Mr. Wonderful, who's kind of the hard ass on Shark Tank.
Yeah.
His daughter or his son has a girlfriend who's vegan.
Yeah.
And now his son's turning vegan and they do a lot of family dinners. He's a great family man and they're cooking together. So he's like, shit, I need to learn some vegan recipes. So I connected with his publicist through just a random stream of intention and luck.
Of course.
And she was like, hey, let's have Mr. Wonderful on your cooking show. I want you to teach him some vegan recipes because he needs these. So I had Mr. Wonderful on. I teach him how to make the most basic cashew ricotta cheese, where you take cashews, you soak them in water overnight so that they soften, and you add garlic and lemon, and you can go crazy from there. But that's the basis of it. It's just showing how you can take cashews, transform the texture, and make it into something savory. So I taught Mr. Wonderful the vegan cashew cheese sauce, and I won't give too many things away, but it was an exciting reaction. And from there, he taught me a recipe for a Mediterranean salad that he'd been making his entire life ever since he grew up in Cyprus and Greece. And, he goes into his whole incredible Greek mythology tale about this recipe as he does. But it was an incredible experience. So I had Mr. Wonderful on. And from there, I'm now trying to tap in to see who is a similar type of person because it went so well. It was the great combination of somebody who's interested in vegan food, doesn't really know where to start, and has a really strong purpose for why he wants to learn. So that's what I'm looking for, is those types of people and people who also excel at something within their own industry or field. He's an incredible investor. I did an episode recently with a former NBA player, and I'm going to tap into a lot more people who have these really unique talents and skills just to make the episodes even more interesting.
That sounds sick. I love that. And I can't wait to see that episode. That'd be so funny. Because he's a bit of a social media sensation. He's a bit of a social media sensation. So
yeah, yeah, it's good. I'm excited.
Look, coming to the tail end of the episode, I wanted to give you the platform to talk about anything you wanted, any kind of wisdom that we didn't touch on today, something that you may be passionate about, could be related to what we're talking about, could be completely random, something that's been on your mind today, last week, last month, last year, it doesn't matter. The stage is all yours, my friend.
Cool. Thank you. So I love to use these podcasts as an opportunity to try and teach something from something I've learned in life. I think that's why I listen to podcasts, and to just be entertained. So one thing that I'm super passionate about is figuring out how we could figure out a way to find work that we love doing. In the United States, it's so common for people to go to college and have a career path to work at a job that doesn't really align with maybe what they're interested in, but is more of a safe thing for them to do based on skills that they had acquired and a career path that they were told that they should go on. And a lot of people end up on those career paths. And I'm in my older 20s now, so I have a lot of friends. I know a lot of people who chose those career paths and aren't happy. And with the quarantine and the pandemic happening, that job security that was once the reason they took those jobs is now gone. And a lot of people are losing these jobs, and they're in hard places because they've spent a lot of time not focusing on skills and passion, but focusing on avoiding those things. So I've come up with the 4-year principle as a replacement for college, which I've repeated multiple times throughout my life, but it's how to start a business in 4 years. So in year number 1, let's say you want to be a videographer, as I did. I'll give you my story. So year number 1 of my realizing, hey, cameras are kind of cool. What if I can make more photos and get paid to do it one day? How cool would that be? I love photography. That was kind of where I was at. So in year number 1, it was learn how to use the camera, learn the basic skills, YouTube University. I use a website called lynda.com to learn how to pick up my camera and shoot videos. And in year one, I was just exploring how to use cameras. And then in year two, you start creating partnerships. So now you have this skill. Now you meet with other people who are interested in the skill and maybe could see value in the skill. So in year number two, you do as much free work as you possibly can. Year two is free work. Work for as many people as you can, do free work for them. So for me, it was like, oh, this person's giving a presentation on this new wall garden that they invented to a board of investors. Can I film that presentation? Oh, this person has a new smoothie brand company. Can I come film your smoothies? I'm super passionate about smoothies. Can I film your smoothies for free? And when you do free work, what's really great is there's less pressure, there's less attachment. You can really explore and learn, and you're building these relationships with people who have a similar interest as you. So year two is do as much free work as you can. Year three is start charging a little bit of money. By year three, I guarantee somebody's going to ask you to pay you. Like, hey, can I hire you to film this product? And that's kind of how it started for me. Somebody said, can I hire you to film this product? And I started by charging $50, then $200, then $500. So year three, start charging a little bit of money. And then in year four, if you do those steps, I can almost guarantee by year four, no matter what you're doing, even if you're starting a DIY woodworking creation kit and you want to teach people how to make bird feeders at home, in year one, you become a master at making bird feeders. In year two, you give as many free bird feeder demonstrations as you can. In year three, you start trying to sell your bird feeders. And in year four, you'll have partnerships and people you've added value to over the course of those 3 years who are then going to give you a lot more money for these bird feeders. And the same thing happened for videography. So by year four of me starting my videography business, you'll be able to make $40,000, $50,000, $60,000, $100,000. You can make $150,000 as a videographer following this type of formula. So just to reiterate, the 4-year principle that can make you find a way to make money doing something that you absolutely love to do and work hard to do it is year one, learn the skills. Year two, do free work. Year three, start charging a little bit of money. Year four, people are going to be begging to hire you. And that's something I love to tell people who are interested in trying to figure their lives out. And it's something I love talking about. So thank you for giving me the platform to talk about it. I know it's totally random.
I love it. But look, coming towards the end now, obviously I'll leave all the links for someone to connect with you below. We got vegan recipes on TikTok. Where else can we find you?
Mario Fabbri Chef on Instagram. Been quiet on Instagram, but I'm starting to post more. And then just kind of stay tuned. Like, go on my website, tryingveganwithmario.com. If you're interested, there's a lot of links to a lot of other things that I'm doing, but that's where I'll eventually release information when I start releasing episodes with Mr. Wonderful and the other guests that I'm going to start working with.
Awesome. Now, look, I want to kind of the end pretext of this episode. I want to thank you for firstly your time and patience and amazing wisdom that you left us with today. And also thank you for, all the amazing work you do in the food industry, because I know it would help a lot of people really take control of their health. And then in that process, they alleviate a lot of animals from pain, and they also make decisions that are better suited for the planet's climate and the position that we're in as a society. So I thank you on behalf of myself as a human, and then on behalf of the Plant Paradigm community as well. I really appreciate your efforts, the hard work you put in, because I know you've been going for ages and I know you work hard. So I really appreciate all of that. And thank you again for your time today, mate.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you so much, Tom, for doing this. And thank you, Plant Paradigm and the whole community for listening and having me with you guys.
Hi there. Welcome to the end of the episode. Thank you for listening the whole way through. I really appreciate the time that you have spent doing whatever you're doing and listening to us talk about food and all things. Thank you once again to Mario for coming on. It was an absolute pleasure to get to know you. You are an incredible soul. And those of you who want to connect with Mario, I'll leave all the links in the show notes. And those of you who want to connect with us, we are most active at plant.paradigm on Instagram. And I've been posting a lot of TikTok videos lately, which is good fun. But that is all from me today. I'll see you on next week's episode. Stay happy, eat plants. Peace.